off the top, to kill time, I tried sharing a story that I don't know if it's true or not, so just go with me on this. You were apparently renowned for being a little forgetful back in your Sydney Kings days. Is it true when you used to forget your laptop, someone encouraged you to tie a shoe to it and therefore you wouldn't forget it, but then you got to a carousel for baggage claim and you looked down and was like, God damn it, where's my shoe?
It didn't get that far. And yes, I've got an issue with that all the time. It was hysterical, really. It got ridiculous. And I lost some valuable stuff as you got further in your coaching career. Like all of a sudden there's computers and projectors. It's not just like in the early days, you're carrying a bag of balls. So yeah. I'm pretty sure actually it was on a trip to Perth, because it was such a long flight. I tied my shoe to my computer and I got halfway down as people are getting off the plane and like, oh shit, I'm limping here with one. Oh shit, I got one shoe and I've left my, so I never got to that far. I mean, to the carousel, but it was a story that has lived with me for quite a while about my forgetfulness.
That is brilliant. No, in years to come, you made it all the way back to the hotel before you realize. So we won't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Look, Gorge, it is an honor of mine to be able to interview you. Obviously, I got to go to a few Boomers training camps where you're at the head of the team, admired what you did with the Kings, and obviously you took off overseas. But you did start as you are a son of a coach. Can you take us back to the really early days of how you got involved in the game and what your dad, means to you when it comes to basketball?
Yeah, I grew up my dad was the local coach at the high school, so we're in a small community in Los Angeles at the base of the mountains. And, it was a brand new school, a new growing area. And my dad became the first basketball coach at that high school and built a program that became renowned, and he became a Hall of Fame coach and ended up, coaching college basketball for a number of years. Loyola University, he was at UNLV with Tarkanian. But during those when I was a young kid and he was the head high school coach, I used to sit in the back of the car as he drove back with the assistant coach, talking about the game. And, I used to go to the games and sit behind the bench when I was in, sixth grade, fifth grade, when I'm 12, 11 years old. And I just wanted to be a high school basketball player and play at Crescenta Valley High School my whole time growing up, and eventually ended up playing for my father. And, a funny one is that Bruce Palmer was on the same team. He grew up in the same area, just down the block from me. I played with both his brothers. We were all on the same team together. And we had my year was the best year, my senior year. Bruce was 2 years younger. His brother was a year younger. And then he had another brother that was a year older. And in my senior year, we went 29-0 and ended up playing in the state championship. We were rated number 2 in the nation at that time. And we lost in the final to the number 1 team in the nation, school called Bourbon Day out of Watts, LA, that was just ended up having one of the greatest players of high school history, a guy named Raymond Lewis. And our whole starting 5 that year got full rides to Division I schools. So it was an unbelievable environment to grow up in. My dad was a disciplinarian. He ran it like the military. Everyone had a shaved head. Everyone trained real hard. We were about team play, offensively, ball movement, like Lindsay, in that kind of offensive structure where there was a lot of ball movement. And we played really tough defense and got the most out of what we had. There was a very, very strong, in our era, in that very tough league. And a lot of the teams had a lot of very good African-American players. our area was called Lily White Glendale, La Crescenta. We didn't have, we were just a bunch of white kids that, had to, in football, we struggled. In athletics, we struggled. In baseball, we struggled. But our basketball team was renowned. And I really took that, what I learned there. I went to college and ended up playing at Pepperdine with Dennis Johnson, the famous guard that played with Larry Bird. We went to the Sweet 16. And, the story goes, every year you get to play a international team to start your season. So we played France my first year, then we played Serbia my second year. My senior year, we played, it was billed as the Australian national team, but it was a team I learned later after coming to Australia that was out of Newcastle. And we played those guys, and they left a lasting impression on our team. They just, it was really funny because our area, everyone had to have their hair cut. Everyone, had to go to chapel twice a week. You weren't allowed to drink. There was very, very strict rules. It was very regimented. And the Newcastle team came in and they looked like AC/DC. They all had long hair, mullets, Ugg boots. Never seen a pair of Ugg boots before. Really nice guy. Afterwards, we'd have the social event down at the pizza place. They're all drinking beer. And I remember our roommates were all saying, man, I wouldn't mind playing on their team, So when that thing finished, I met a couple of those guys, and one of them ended up having a link with a junior college coach that I stayed with. He had a link with Lindsay. Out of nowhere, I got a call from Lindsay, and within 6 months of graduation, I was in Australia.
That's amazing. I'm going to go ahead and credit the Newcastle Falcons, if it was the Falcons back in the day, for bringing Goorj to Australia. Hunter Valley boy, Newcastle Falcons were my team growing up, so I'm going to go ahead and credit them for bringing the GOAT. You mentioned Lindsay, and I love that, you're the son of a coach. Obviously, Andrew was at all of Lindsay's training sessions. Mitch Norton was a floor wiper for the Townsville Crocs. Chase Kadee was a floor wiper for the West Sydney Razorbacks. But one of the real highlights, and we're going to get into the Olympics a little bit now, one of the real highlights for me was the raw emotion when the buzzer went off was one thing. And for me, it was my favorite sporting moment at the Olympics. But then hearing Andrew Gaze talk about it moments later on TV, I'm not sure if you've seen the footage, but the emotion he displayed and how much it meant to not only he, but his dad was just incredible. And I've heard you talk about this with Liam Santamarini and a few other guys post, but for all our listeners out there with Basketball New South Wales, can you, kind of go into the emotion of what that game meant to not only you and your playing group, but also who are represented?
Well, I think that was the biggest part about it, is that as it went on, and as I just, again, being away for 12 years, coming back, a really difficult thing, and probably the most difficult with the Boomers, was actually taking the job. Because there's good jobs. As you get older in this, you learn there's good jobs and there's bad jobs. And a job you don't want to take is a team that's done phenomenally and pretty much punched in some ways outside of their weight. And you're supposed to take them, further. And I looked at this thing and I go, man, I was in China when they last played, watched all their games. I thought they played brilliantly. And they generated, obviously, in coming back, they had a huge following and a lot more support. The Boomers brand was so much stronger than when I was involved in it 12 years ago. And as joining back, being a part of it, getting, playing in Vegas and then leading into Tokyo, you could just feel that there was a tremendous following, that all eyes were on us. And it was, I think it was seen as our time. And so, again, being involved in this thing since the 70s, knowing people like, obviously Andrew, but going back to, Lindsay Gaze, Barry Barnes, Adrian Hurley, I was around that elk and how hard they were working to make not only the Boomers, but making basketball relevant. And when I joined the Melbourne Tigers and arrived in January 1977, Lindsay was the national coach. So, he used to bring them to Melbourne, and are the Melbourne Tigers. We used to scrimmage against them and play against them. So, Ian Davies, Phil Smythe, I played against all those guys there. So it was, I know my voice sounds like this, but it was in my blood. And what you felt in there is that, you had an opportunity to make a lot of people very, very happy. And also there was also, when you're coaching in this, there's a flip side of this, that you can also have a negative effect. This is like last chance corral for this group. So there was a lot of pressure on this, and the relief of it was, and the most exciting part of it, I did see Andrew's talk, and I listened to Patty Mills right after the game was over being interviewed, and the words that were coming out of his mouth brought tears to my eyes. And we all of us knew, and it wasn't like a surprise. All of us knew the effect this was having on the whole country and what it meant. And that was probably the biggest and most rewarding aspect of it.
Oh man, no, it was incredible. I was back here, and I know I'm biased, but I'll forever remember where Kathy Freeman was when she won gold, Kieran Perkins from Lane 8, and the Boomers winning bronze, or as we prefer to call it, rose gold. So it was a special moment. I'm glad you got to be a part of it. You mentioned Patty. I'm going to throw a few names at you, and if you can just give me a quick blurb on what each of these names or people mean to you, and we'll start with Patty.
Well, I just God, so many one words. I mean, great, greatness, tremendous leader, unbelievable will, great teammate.
Yeah, hell of a guy. One of my favorite things about Paddy is what he says in front of a camera or when a microphone's in front of him is a genuine love of who he is behind the scenes as well. He doesn't just say that because he knows people are listening. It's from the core, and that's who he is behind the scenes as well, in particular when it comes to his culture and his love for the game and his country. We had Nick Kay on yesterday, Tamworth boy. This is a Basketball New South Wales interview. Tell me a little bit about Nick Kay.
Like you've gone two great ones right off the start, but I mean Nick was probably one of the unsung hero, one of the most important pieces. And again, I mean, a funny thing with when we're at Irvine, and I saw him play when you played with Perth. That was one of my first viewings of Australian basketball in 12 years. That final series, I got home at the right time because the season was shortened in China. And I looked and I said, that guy could play in China as an import. He just, and then when we went to Irvine, it's like you're watching practice all the time, and what does he do? like, and then it's like you get to the event, and it's he does everything, and he does it. I'd constantly look at Maddie and go, because I needed help with the substitutions. There was a lot going on. So Maddie and Capes and those guys would be moving bodies. And I'd go, where's Nick? And they go, he's tired. He needs a rest. I go, we'll call a timeout, get him back in the game. But always in the right spot, a great passer, do so many little things that aren't in the stat sheet, huge play at the end of the game. We go to Luka. And so he starts, it's his time now at the end of the game. We're up 12, they've cut it to 4, and Luka's hit 2 threes. We've scored, he hits a 3. We lose a point. We score, he hits a 3. It's down to 4. Let's switch the on ball. Let's switch the on ball. So we switch the on ball, all right, and he scores again. Right? Okay, we're gonna have to double this, get the ball out of his hand. It's Luka's time. This is what he's known for. So he comes down the floor, and Nick shows, and he crosses over, and he gets his fingertips on the ball and knocks it away. Dante gets it, goes the length of the floor and lays it in. I don't know how many times we're in a hole, we're in the mud. He leaps up, and not he and Jock, but he knocks the ball out, and it goes to Joe, and Joe hits a 3. He keeps that ball alive. He picks up a charge. A ball's going out of bounds, and he just gets his fingertip on it and saves it. It gets reversed, and we hit a 3. Great defender that you can switch with, unbelievably versatile. And I always say this about certain players, and his size, he's either undersized and for his position, or he's unbelievably versatile. And what he is versatile. He could play 5, he could play 4, he can play on the perimeter and carry the ball against pressure. Unbelievably multi-skilled. And then the last part about him, and this is, what made this team special. And I know you've had teams like this at Perth, and I have, but this was to another level of a teammate. There was so many guys I look at, and I always go, well, we all played. This guy is the ultimate teammate. He will do anything for his teammate, sacrifice anything to get the result that's required. As you can tell, didn't know I knew what Patty was going to bring, and he brought it in spades. I knew what Joe was going to bring, and he was a huge surprise for me. I knew he was a good player, and I knew a very good player, but I think he's an NBA player.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of my favorite all-time teammates because he just doesn't do anything wrong. I don't think he ever made a mistake on a defensive assignment in regards to the rules we had going into it. Now, we might change the rules in the flow of the game, how we're guarding on-balls in particular, and not once can I ever remember him being on the wrong side of that on-ball screen. Not once can I remember us calling a play out of a timeout and him being in the wrong position. He's just like ultimate teammate, and his skill is better than what he gets credit for. So I'm glad you spoke like that of him, because I think he is brilliant, and I think if any GM took a chance or gave him an opportunity, he would not disappoint at any level, including the NBA. I know we've gone a little bit over time already, but if you don't mind, we might change to the Illawarra Hawks now, because I know we've got a lot of Illawarra juniors here. So I'm going to ask 2 more things of you, Gorge. One, advice you give to any aspiring basketballer. We've got a lot of juniors out of Basketball New South Wales who are either online right now listening or will tune into this a little bit later. And then the advice you give to coaches to pass on to those juniors. And then secondly, a little run sheet of a rundown of what are you expecting from those Hawks boys out there this season.
Well, I think, you start with coaching. And I think, people ask me about, how do you do what do you do? Or I mean, you constantly want to get better. 2, you want to be, I always think this is a player, and the same thing as a coach, you want to be and find people that are knowledgeable and that are better than you, and you want to learn and you want to grow. I mean, when I was a kid and I was playing, and I told you about the area we were in, we used to get in the car and go down into Watts and play 4-on-4 and 3-on-3 and play against kids that were better than you. And that was driven to us by our coach. Always play around the best. Play around in if you're hitting a tennis ball, you want to hit the ball against somebody that's better than you. It's the same in basketball. And as a coach, you want to surround yourself and try to learn with people that are better than you and people that are knowledgeable. And I found this when I was in China. When I'm looking at you and you're looking at me and you're a player, I can't say a word to you. We can't communicate. and the guy, how do you get them to play for you? How do you get them? Everyone, I realize this about everyone wants to get better. And those players would look at you, and when you took a practice or you did something with you, they would want to know, and they knew, the Chinese knew right away, does this guy know what he's doing? Is he competent? That was number one. So if I'm a player, if I'm a coach, and I've got this guy one-on-one and I'm throwing him the ball, am I competent? Have I done my work? Do I know what I'm talking about? Do I know where the foot goes? Do I know where the hand goes? Do I know? So am I making this kid better? Because the kids know, are you competent? Number two is, and it's both sides of the coin, as a player and as a coach, work ethic. And I'd always, when I went to China, be the first guy in the gym, be the last guy in the gym, always stay there, rebound for them, throw them extra shots. When you come in and you walk into the gym that night, you've sat up, and I've cut up clips of you from the practice session. And I go, hey, Damien, come over here, get the interpreter over here, sit down. I want to show you 6 clips from the on ball. Here's 6 good ones. Here's 6 bad ones. Here's what we're working on today. And communication with your players. Don't be afraid. And again, I could go on here, but you'd say, like, a guy like Matty Nielsen left me like this on his ability to communicate and get his points across with players. So in spending time with players, communicating with players, and as a player, work ethic, play people that are better than you, try to be around and listen to your coaches.
It's funny, you reminded me, just listening, of something I once heard that I think can apply to all things, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And as a coach, you can be instrumental in a player's love for the game, but you can also strip it away. Something that a coach might see as a throwaway comment might stick like mud to the player, and that might be the reason they're unmotivated. On the flip side, you show them that kindness and that care you have in them as a player, back that up with knowledge of the game and work ethic, you can be the biggest reason they go on to do something bigger and better and achieve things they never thought they would. And no, I think that's great advice for juniors. And last question to wrap it up. Obviously, I'm a biased Perth Wildcats supporter, but we have had some great battles with those mighty Hawks of yours in years gone by. Just quickly, to all the Hawk supporters out there, what can we expect from the Brian Goorjian-led Illawarra Hawks?
Well, I think, what we did last year was a good base, and the thing that the Hawks haven't done over time. They've had better seasons than we had last year, but we had a good season last year. And when they've had a good season, and I give the example of Perth, Nick Kay, Norton played here and left. Our deal was, and I said to management, forget wins and losses now, we got to keep our guys. And we got to add to this. So to get Tyler Harvey back, who was first team all league, that usually doesn't happen. And we signed him to a 3-year deal. We want him to be our Bryce Cotton. And he's that kind of person as well. And then to keep all our young guys, to keep Sam Frawling, to keep Gritter, to keep that group together was big. And then I look at the national team and how many players on that national team play in the NBL? Well, the Hawks got one. So, we recruited a national player, and he's a part of this team. We're really excited about that. So,
great pickup.
Yeah, no, we're really pleased about Duop, and we signed Harvey back. We got a nice young team. And last year, we had 2 very talented players in Cam Bairstow and Adele Dang. And that, Cam got hurt. The Adele situation didn't work. So, we've added 2 pieces in, Duop. We brought, Harry Frawling into this. So I'm looking at my group from last year to this year. We've kept the main core there, and we've added some pieces. So for our community, we're something that I know they'll be excited about.
No, that is brilliant. Growing up, I said, if I'm not going to play for the Falcons, I'm going to play for the Hawks. And then the Falcons were no longer around. Didn't quite get picked up by Illawarra, but I've always loved heading back east and getting to my home state of New South Wales. And great having you at the helm. Great team you've got on paper. And honestly, I'm over the moon. I got to interview you. I'll see you courtside when you're out at Perth. But I'll throw it back to Adam now to wrap it up. But thanks a lot, Gorge. And what you've done with the Boomers, a huge thank you from all basketball lovers around the nation. We really felt a part of it.
Thanks, Damo. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No worries.